Nityasagetave Tapatraya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. So the Bhagavatam follows lineages. In fact, it follows we've had different cycles of creation and different Manus and different Manu sons. And this canto is focusing on the other son of King Manus, which is Priyavata. So first we saw Uttapada, and then Dhruv, and from Dhruv came King Prithu. Then here we see now Priyavata. And we'll do his story super quickly, even though in the Balvir class we dedicate a whole lesson to him, because he also was an incredibly amazing devotee of Bhagwan. He actually didn't want to be the king. He had gone to Narad Muni, and Narad Muni, as I said, loves to make everybody bhaktas and renounce grihastha life. But Manu, his father, came and said, no, we created you for a purpose, you have to fulfill your purpose. And then he didn't listen, so then grandfather Brahmaji came. So very determined they were to make sure he became a king. And because he was such an amazing king. But after ruling for something like 100 years, he says, this was what I did to fulfill my duty as a son. Now I will do for me what I always wanted. And then pursues his devotion. And so this is a theme that people repeat often in conversations. We fulfill duty when duty needs to be fulfilled, but then we go back to devotion. And sometimes we can do it simultaneously, like be devoted even as we work in the world. But if the yearning to do just devotion is there, then at some point we leave worldly attachments and pursuits. And so he left, went to the forest to meditate, and he had 10 sons, and from his lineage was born Mahavir, who the entire Jainism community follows. And also from the same lineage, so Priyavata, Mahavir, of course, went off into the forest and did his tapasyacharya, and his brother Anidharv was the king. From him was born Nabi, and they have their own stories as devotees. The entire lineage is a lot of devotees. But Nabi he did a lot of yagnas, so many that Bhagwan came to grant him a boon, and he asked for, I want a son like you. Now this happens so many times. And they won't say, please come as my son, because that's a bit rude to say. But nobody else can be like Bhagwan. So they say, I want a son like you, because then Bhagwan has to say, nobody's like me, so I'll only have to come. And we see this when Dashrath Maharaj asked for Ramchandraji, and we see this when Vasudeva asked. But here Nabi is a king, and Bhagwan comes to him as Rishabha avatar. Again, not a very well-known avatar. And so where Kapil Muni's avatar was to give knowledge, Rishabha avatar is really to teach us how to live in complete renunciation. And so here again, very much worshipped in the Jain community for that the austerities and the strictness of the austerities that he adhered to. But before he became a Avadut, he ruled and fulfilled duty and had 100 sons, and then he would educate them with the general praja. And one of the things that is most notable in the story here is he teaches his own sons, and he teaches to parents what you should teach your children. Yeah. So I'm telling you what he said. I'm not saying this. This is what Rishabha said as a father to his children and told his children to teach his children. Number one, duty of a parent is to teach their children the purpose of the body is not the pursuit of sense pleasures. If all we do in this lifetime is pursue sense pleasures, then we are not fit to be called human. So, purpose of the body is to do seva. And so constantly remind yourself, and remember, Rishabha avatar then goes on to become very austere. So constantly remember that this body that you are pampering is going to become food for insects. Every time you want to pamper this body, remember, this body serves the purpose of being food for insects and is made up of nothing but filth. Everything in this body is filth, and so why are you pampering it? Who's saying this? Parent to child. This is not one great rishi sitting in the forest telling you to have vairagya. Every parent should be teaching this to their child. And so you can see in Satyug, the general strength of the mind would have been so different because this is what was being taught from young itself. And so instead of living in this body, which is filth, if we continue to identify with body, which is filth, we'll stay filth. Purify yourself by what you are thinking about. Use body to purify mind. Purpose of the body is to purify mind. This is super reiterated several times over. How to purify the mind, and one of the ways is seva. And the second way is satsang. And so many times in the Bhagavatam we have conversations between two devotees or avatars or rishi munis with their students, and some of it we have been going into detail, but I'm not able to take all the verses, and but satsang comes up as a repeated theme. And so just to focus on it just a little bit here before we go into Rishabha's life. Sat means that which never changes. Yeah. Sat means truth. Yeah. Sangha means to attach ourselves to. Sometimes it gets translated as company of. And this one you're very familiar with. Keeping the company of goodness, usually satness. Satsang, keeping the company of goodness. Although very often if you ask the Balvihar kids what is satsang, Shri Ram, Jaya Ram, Jaya. They literally do this. And then when I teach them the meaning of satsang and it's not Shri Ram, then they do it just to irritate me. Next class when I'll say, what is satsang? Then they'll do it with more vigor. Shri Ram. What is satsang? That's because all my Balvihar kids are sitting here. Attachment to truth. Not just keeping the company of truth. Keeping company of truth is a way to become attached to truth. Yeah? But keeping the company of truth, or good people, Santa Mahatma, devotees, bhaktas, are all means to accomplish what it actually means. Yeah? To attach ourselves to truth. Attach is how dear it is to us. Yeah? Like, oh, I didn't bring it, mobile phone. How dear it is to us. It's not only in the pocket, we hold it in the hand. It's something, yeah, you're holding it in your hand. Even if it's for the purposes of recording. We get so attached we are to mobile phone. And if we forget it somewhere, then the whole life has to stop. Backtrack to find it. How dear is it to me is indication of how attached I am to it. When we say things like, I cannot live without my cup of coffee, or a particular person, or watching the soccer, footy, cricket, whatever it is. That's my life. People even use these words. Yeah. Satsang is when truth is our life. Yeah. When changeless is more dear to us than changing. And if you think about what's changing, if you think about what's dear to you, satsang is developing the aptitude so that changeless becomes more dear to me than changing. There's only one changeless, and there's only one sat, and there's only one infinite. Yeah. And so when that becomes dearer to me, when I attach myself to that, and the beauty of satsang is everything else is going to change. And because everything changes, it causes us sorrow. But this is really home. It's our anchor, it's our refuge, it's our abode. It's all of it. And so, parent teaching child. First, the body is just filth. Second, the most important thing to do is satsang. Yeah. And he goes further to say, and as a father he says, you're not a good father if you don't teach your children devotion. You're not a good mother if you don't teach your children devotion. You're not a good guru if you don't teach bhaktas devotion. You're not a good friend if you don't help your friend have devotion. He is very clear. And he taught this to all and sundry. He had 100 kids, but he taught it to his entire praja as well, continuing that system of public teaching. And then after handing over to his 100 sons, he goes into the forest. Now he was such a powerful king with all the resources and all the luxury, and when he gives it up, he gives up everything. So avadut means, like yesterday, day before, where I was talking about, they don't even wear clothes. Walks around the forest, and he did an interesting thing that most avaduts don't do, but he did. He took a stone of sizable size and then put it in his mouth and just kept it there. So now, no food. And if there's a stone in your mouth, you cannot talk. So when he renounced everything. Renounced clothes, renounced food, renounced speech. Walked around in the forest in reverence and reveling in Paramatma, because his avatar already had all the knowledge. And so just reveling in that. And the description given of him is that even though avadut, he was extremely attractive. And so perchance when women did see him, they were very enamored. And they would approach and not interested. Like no matter who came, he just stayed in the forest, wandering around. And the siddhis are all the powers that we can have of the mind. All came, stood bowing down to him, begging him to use them. to accept them. Turned away. He wouldn't accept the Siddhis. And here, in Canto 5, we back to King Parikshit asking Shukdev Maharaj. And so Vidur had gone to Maitreya to learn, and he had learned everything from Maitreya, and they had a beautiful satsang. Vidur was enlightened by Krishna's message, and Vidur goes off to meditate and attains that highest. Maitreya Rishi also meditates and attains the highest. And then the conversation in Canto 5 moves back to King Parikshit. So King Parikshit said, why when the Siddhis came to offer him their service, he doesn't use them? And very clear, Shukdev Maharaj says, because the mind is very tricky. And if you want to renounce, hold nothing but Bhagwan. Even powers, don't hold. Yeah. And he lived this incredibly austere life, which we see in the Jain tradition, they really try to emulate. Right? Like when I remember the last time I was fasting in Singapore somewhere, and then I was still drinking water, eating fruits, and the Jain person next to me was like, this is fasting? This is not fasting. And I was like, oh, I have been properly told off. They fast, they don't even drink water. That take austerity. And Risha avatar is who they hold as their ideal, where he's renounced clothes, food, speech, everything. Yeah. Only Bhagwan, and lived causing no inconvenience to anyone. So not even asking for food, not asking for care. And he dies in a forest fire, so nobody has to even burn his body. Like that complete. So when he ruled so beautifully, and when he renounced so beautifully. And so this avatar is really for the ideal. Every avatar he shows an ideal. Ideal of knowledge, ideal of karma, ideal of, and here, the life of a Paramahamsa and the state of a Paramahamsa. Now in his lineage comes King Bharat, which this canto I think is most famous for King Bharat. This is who India is named after. Some people say it's named after Shakuntala's son, but actually Bhagavatam gives the story of King Bharat, which Bharat, and you'll see in the story why. It gives some very beautiful messages. So Bharat was an amazing king. At one point, and I think it was Priyavata, where he united all the continents, and so the entire world was considered one kingdom. Today we have loads of different kingdoms, but at that point the entire world was considered one kingdom. And Bharat ruled with such grace and fulfilling all the criterias, and was very, very, very loved and respected by the people, and that's why named after him. And he reached a point where, having ruled for a long enough time, he goes into the forest. And pretty much all the kings in these two cantos, they rule very well, and then they renounce. And this theme is repeated, because when we see that we start our life in Brahmacharya ashram, which means we study and we equip ourselves to be able to fill the world. Then if you have desires, then you go into Grahastha ashrams. If you don't, you can bypass sannyas ashram straight away. But if you have desires, then you can fulfill desires in Grahastha ashram, but slowly outgrow your desires till you get to sannyas. And so you'll see all the stories here of very successful people, and they always end giving up. And so if you've not gotten to the point where you can give up, not successful. Because remember, purpose of life is not artha. And so giving up artha, test of how attached you are to it. Can you let it go? And so every story, king will give up the kingdom. the ability to give up artha so that you can move to moksha and devotion, be steeped in it. So Bharat goes off into the forest to meditate, and he is doing a fabulous job meditating because all these kings have gotten lots of knowledge. And so he's knowing what to meditate. And one day, a deer gives birth to a, what's it called, calf? Fawn? Fawn. And the mother dies. And so the small fawn is left helpless. And then all of us will think, oh. So this King Bharat also, who is now meditating in the forest, having given up his entire kingdom, takes the fawn and cleans it and feeds it and keeps it safe. And then, so easy. How many of y'all have puppies? Cats? It's like a new wave of everyone having one. And then the display picture on the phone is puppy. So quickly you get attached. No? Many homes in India they won't allow. The grandparents won't allow it. And they will say, we don't need to add Maya. Already enough Maya we have. Here the word Maya means attachment. Because so quickly, especially when you see something as a baby, so quickly we get attached. Because why? It needs me. We so desperately want to be needed. And then this is, when because I'll have this non-reactive face when they're telling me about their puppy. I'll be like, no, you don't understand. It's such a joy. When you come home, they're so happy to see you. Exactly. It's about you feeling important, that they're happy to see you. Increasing Maya. Attachment. I'm not saying don't have them. I'm saying how easy it is to get attached. And then they're not like your kids. They won't have teenage spurt which will make you detach. Bhagwan protects you when he gives you children because they will become teenagers and you will get detached and you will realize you are not the most important person in the world. But that pet never does that, so you stay attached only. Which is why people want pets now and not kids. Which is not good for us. We don't need to feel so important. The more important we feel, the less importance we give to him. Because then we're too busy feeling important. But we're not. He is. And so King Bharat became so attached to this deer that he would be watching it, walk around, watching it eat, and then he would sit to meditate and think, oh, is the deer okay? Meditate again. Oh, it's time to feed the deer. And then meditation got left because he is thinking about the deer. And then the deer doesn't know that the king's so attached to him. So one day he sees a group of deers and runs off with them. And now King Bharat is heartbroken and so sad that he is now alone and this deer just left him when he cared so much about the deer. You can replace deer with kid, spouse, friend. And then in this heartache, when we infatuated, when we attached, when we are longing, when we are pining, our thoughts are very strong. We already know that our minds create our reality. And so he dies missing this deer. and he's born again as a deer. Yeah. But because he had done satsang, because he was doing tapas, because he gave up the whole kingdom. He had sons, he gave up the sons, he gave up power just to get attached to a deer. But because he did give up kingdom, because he did have intention to do tapas to gain Bhagwan, when he's born as a deer, he remembers. He remembers he was King Bharat. He remembers what an awesome king he was. He remembers all the satsang he did. He remembers he got attached to a deer. And he realizes that's why this life now, he's in the form of a deer. You know, when the scriptures or the Gita says that our mind takes the form of what we think about, they mean it. We will take that form. And we'll see it in smaller ways on a daily basis, and we'll get angry, and then we become anger personified. What we think, we become. We get attached to, and all you people who are attached to puppies. Human birth is so precious. Human birth is so precious, is what King Bharat realizes. And so he sits near ashrams, listening to satsang. Because now he's already a deer, nothing can be done. At least continue satsang. That was what set him on the right path. And then he dies as a deer. And he's born again, and we don't know what name he's given. And so he's referred to as Jada Bharat, the original name. And so we see 3 lifetimes of his. And in this Jada Bharat lifetime, he is born with all the knowledge, and he is determined not to get attached, even to mother and father. So he doesn't speak to them. And every time they try to teach him something, he deliberately does it wrong. So when they were trying to teach him Om, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, he'd say something else. Or just make sounds. And so they thought, something wrong. What to do? Gifted child today, we would say, whatever. They thought, nope, something he cannot. And some people treated him very nicely. Some people treated him terribly. Because if you think this person is not intelligent, then everyone is different, right? And so not really valued. And he wouldn't ask for food. He wouldn't ask for water. He wouldn't ask for clothes. He wouldn't ask for anything. He was so determined not to get attached to this life. And in his mind, all he did was japa and remembered all that he learnt in satsang. And he had already reached this state of enlightenment. So he left the house, he was wandering around, and he continued to do this. He continued to muck up any job anyone gave him. Even if somebody said, just hold this, I'm going somewhere and coming back, he'd drop it. And deliberately break it. Why? Next time, don't give me a job. And so seeing him, they're having nobody protect him, some bandits take him as a replacement for their sacrifice in their Kali Puja. And at that point in time, they were still doing animal sacrifices. The animal had escaped, and they needed to sacrifice. And so they bathe him, they dress him, they adorn him with sandalwood, and they put him on the pyre to sacrifice him in the puja. And Mother Kali recognizes that this is an enlightened being. and will not allow him to be hurt. And so she actually manifests out of the murti and takes the sword from the person and cuts the person instead as the sacrifice and protects Jada Bharat. This is confirmation that he was, in fact, enlightened, self-realized being, because she appears to protect him. No matter how unintelligent he behaved, he was enlightened. And so he continues on his way. And even that, when they were about to sacrifice him, good. Don't need this body anymore. I will merge into infinite truth. He was happy. It was going to all be over. But Mother Kali saved him, so there was some purpose for him to still be alive. So he continues, and as he's going, there was a king called Raghugyana, and he was being carried by in a palanquin. And so you need 4 people, and one of them, got sick, maybe diarrhea, I don't know. And so they needed someone, so they saw him, he was very hatta-katta. Even though he didn't ever ask for food, just his own tapas and yogic strength, that his body was extremely healthy. So they said, yeah, come carry. No, but when you're carrying a palanquin, you have to walk in a certain rhythm. And of course, he didn't, because give him any job and he'll do it wrong. And actually, in one version of the story, he was seeing there were ants on the path, and he doesn't want to step on the ants. And so he keeps, now imagine the guy in the palanquin being, every time he jumped to avoid an ant. And so this king, of course, is not so compassionate. And he comes out and he looks at him and says, you look healthy enough. Don't you know how to walk? Like something so simple you don't know how to do. Shall I teach you how to walk? And he replies. I'm going to try and remember the exact what he says. So the king says, should I teach you how to walk and carry the palanquin so that you're not constantly disturbing me? And he replies, if it's me that's carrying the palanquin, then sure, you can teach me. But it's but a bundle of clay, holding a bundle of clay, carrying a bundle of clay. When the king hears this, he jumps out of the palanquin and he does Shashtang Namaskar. And he says, I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared of even Yamraj or Lord Shiva's tyrant, but I am scared of offending a Santa Mahatma. Who are you? Because you don't speak like a foolish person. And so he doesn't answer who he is. He answers who he is not. That I am not this body that you say is hale and hearty. And neither are you. There is nothing that makes you a king and makes me your servant. Just one body of flesh claiming to be a king, demanding me to be a servant. So he hasn't answered who he is, but very clear that he has this highest knowledge. And his conversation here is very similar to, if you read Manisha Panchakam, Lord Shiva himself manifests as a Chandalya, means like a beggar and with lots of stray dogs around him, and comes in front of Shankaracharya after he has, or on his route to Vishwanath temple, on his route back from Vishwanath temple, either going or coming, I can't remember which one. And so Shankaracharya doesn't want to get dirty, he's just going to get darshan of Bhagavan. And so he says in Sanskrit, Gacha Gacha, move. And Lord Shiva's reply is, what should I move? Matter from matter means your body is matter, my body is matter, it's the same. What am I moving? Like your body is not cleaner than mine. It might look dirtier, but it's matter only. Then the sand is matter. You are matter, I am matter. What am I moving? Or am I moving consciousness from consciousness? And consciousness can't move. Consciousness is all pervading and you can't move it. So what do you want me to move? And immediately Shankaracharya knew that this can only be Lord Shiva and bows down. So here too, this king may be not as great as Shankaracharya because he's still a devotee, but he was very sincere in his seeking and he recognized that this person is wise. And then he says, please explain more to me. And he's very sincere in his wanting to understand. And he says, if you put rice in fire, rice is not fire, but it will get hot. So how can you say you feel no weight on your body? By carrying the peliquent, right? Just by, rice will get hot near fire. And then this whole explanation of Purusha and Prakriti is given by Jada Bharata to the king. And he listens to it, and he was en route to go to satsang, but this becomes his satsang, and he accepts Jada Bharata as guru. And after this, we don't hear anything of Jada Bharata. But it is explained that we see 3 lifetimes of Jada Bharata to show us that we are not just this lifetime. There is continuity of our existence. And we'll get so engrossed in this lifetime, and we'll get so engrossed in the thoughts of this lifetime and the attachments of this lifetime and the problems of this lifetime, but it's just this lifetime. And then you're going to repeat that next lifetime, and you're going to repeat that next lifetime, whereas there's continuity. And if we turn our attention to Bhagwan, then in every lifetime, we can take a step forward and we can get closer to Bhagwan and closer to Bhagwan. Otherwise, you're just staying here. This husband, this wife, these children, these friends, these problems, this health issues, these prestige issues, and then carry forward. Next life, next wife, next husband, next children, next. Same fears, same fears. Why? Because it's fear of death. Fear of being hurt, fear of being left alone. Same fears. Yeah. And so the faces change, the names change, the story is the same. And no progress is made. But every lifetime is a continuous journey, and it can be progress. Yeah. And so Jada Bharat, these 3 lifetimes are to show us this, and to show us that things have to get finished. And so here it's very nice. It doesn't always quite work this way, but in the Bhagavatam they like to make it very clear. So the deer that he got attached to, now he was Santa at that point. He was a king, but he lived very nobly, and he was doing satsang. So, he was doing meditation, puja, worship, sadhana. So the deer got satsang. Yeah. And the benefits of satsang, remember when we saw King Rishabha teaching children, what's the most important thing? Satsang. The benefit of even a deer getting satsang, he was born straight as human and straight as a king, wanting satsang. So this king that Jada Bharata imparts knowledge to is the deer that he was attached to. And because there was more than attachment, because Santa's heart is filled with love, and love is true, and love is pure, and when you love, you want their welfare, he is able to give this knowledge for the welfare of that jiva. That's the deer. And so the love bit translates into the deer now gets this knowledge and can continue on their journey. But from being a deer, animal birth gets human birth already having devotion. Otherwise we get human birth and you're interested in lang quai phong. Just because you have human birth doesn't mean you have devotion and you want to do satsang. You can be distracted with at least 3,000 different things. Yeah. Maybe not Lang Kwai Fang. Maybe, like I said, that soccer or fashion or cooking or so many things. Full human birth can be gone into that one vasana that just consumes us. But little bit satsang in that dear birth gives him devotion. Even in that Hanuman Chalisa, there's that line, Janama Janama. Yeah. When you sing Hanuman Chalisa, every life from now onwards, you'll have devotion. Yeah. And you might think not the most important line in the Chalisa, that Bhuta Pisach, let's hold that line. Na se roga, yeah, let's keep that line. What's that line where my wishes come through? What's that line in the Chalisa? We're more interested in those lines in the Chalisa, but that's not the beauty of the Chalisa. The true beauty of the Chalisa is you guaranteeing next life I will have devotion. Because then continuity of my journey of progress, otherwise we're just doing that. Walking in circles, doing lots, accomplishing nothing. Driving very fast, going nowhere. Jada Bharata. Now, like I said, in the Bhagavatam, it makes these parallels, right? Even later on, you'll see that in the Ramayana, that Dobi that criticizes Sita ji is born in Krishna avatar as the same Dobi that is Kamsa's Dobi, and then he's carrying Kamsa's clothes, and then Krishna sees him walking down the street of Mathura and gives one punch, takes the clothes. Well, he doesn't just punch straight away. The Dobi is rude to him, and then why you're rude to me, and so Krishna gives. And so it's like the satisfaction, Ramji couldn't punch the Dobi, and so as Krishna, that same Dobi came back and he punched. But it's not like that. The law of karma is not like that. Right? It's not so black and white that same person that you got, say that person insulted you this life, and the next birth you'll be able to get that same person as your daughter-in-law. Or whatever. I'm just using any example. Or your servant. Or it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Karma works like this. A situation repeats itself. So, an antagonizing person in my life, whoever they are, parent, teacher, boss, older sibling, then next life, antagonizing person in my life. Another relationship maybe, and it won't be that same jiva that tormented you this life. It will just be the situation repeats. Why? Because karma is, I have to fulfill that experience, not with that specific person or that specific jiva, because so many patterns. Yeah. But we like to be senti. I love you only. So next life I'll love you only. But then that's not love. If love is limited, it's not love. Yeah. Love by nature expands the heart to accommodate whoever comes next. It's like when you have the first kid and you think, I can never love anyone as much, and then you have the second kid. Then you have the third kid. So you all don't have third kid. You love them just as much. In a different way, maybe. Yeah. And some parents will have favorites, and then that's no good. King Bharat. Having learned from mistakes, we never make them again, is wisdom. We don't have to wait for next life. This life only. having made mistake, never make them again. Because we all can already see how quickly the fall happens. And so this is why he was amazing enough for the entire kingdom to be named after him. It's that progress, and to give up attachment, then fall and give in to it again. And that's why in Rishabha Avatar he said, the mind is very sneaky. Having given up so much, I can still get attached to something. So don't allow the mind to play those tricks. Just don't let the possibility even exist there. And the idea that a devotee, because he was, King Bharat was a devotee, and then Bhagavan says, Na me bhakta pranashyati, but he falls. Right? He was in this forest meditating, and then he falls, he gets attached. But whatever we do that's good, whatever we do that was satsang, whatever we do that is japa, that will also bear fruit. And then whatever the fall is, that will bear fruit, but they get back up again. So when there's devotion, when there's, and the most important quality, sincerity in the heart to be devoted, then even if there is a fall, we get back up again. And then that is re-emphasized in the story of Ajamala, which starts in the next canto, but they connected in that point, and so we'll just finish very quickly with the story of Ajamala. Some of you may have heard it before. Here also the idea of karma, and in King Bharat's life also the idea of karma, that it finishes, cause, effect, right? And even all his tapas that he does, and then Mother Kali comes to save him. Devotee will be protected. But when we hear devotee will be protected, then we see this scenario. Mother Kali coming out of the murti, protecting the child. We don't see the falling bit and the raising up bit, which is more what is being promised to us. That even if you fall, you will be picked back up. As long as there's that sincerity of wanting devotion. It's not going to be Mother Kali coming out of the murti, because he was self-realized master at that point. Then when you reach there also she'll come. So Ajamila is a Brahmana, and the story will focus on his downfall. So before the story focuses on his downfall, I want to emphasize he did lots of good. Right? He was practicing sincerely, he was doing his duties, he was devout, he did lots of punya karma. And then he got besotted. He saw a prostitute pleasuring her client, and the image got frozen in his mind. And this is why the mind cannot be taken for granted, and this is why we have to bring the mind back to satsang often, to wash it. Because images get stuck and we'll see on a poster, on the Instagram, on television, or somebody is talking and we'll have something flash in our mind, and they just get stuck. So cleanse it by satsang, by japa. But sometimes japa is not enough, because the knowledge needed, and little bit, because that's what happens in satsang, little bit, just small. So he sees this and the image gets stuck, and then he wants her only. And so he pursues her. And then of course, her livelihood is this, so she's going to charge. And so he starts spending more and more on this pleasure. And so wife gets forgotten, children get forgotten. They're going to only tolerate it for so long, but he also gets so enamored that he just totally forgets them and he moves in with her. Quite happy to have forgotten that life and indulge in this one now. And so they have a child, but they were not very responsible because they don't even name him. Like he was just a product of the action, not necessarily wanted, and just existed. And so he was maybe 7 or 8. A sannyasi was walking through the town and was asking for directions to somewhere or to some santa or to some mandir. And somebody, being very cheeky, gave directions to this house where Ajamela and the prostitute are living. But it was God's will. Because when he got there and he sees the child and he says, "What's your name?" the child thinks, "Oh, I don't have one." And he can deduce the scenario. And so he names the child Narayan. But at least Bhagwan's name gets taken in this house, where they couldn't even be bothered naming the child. And this is Santa's compassion. Yeah. And Bhagwan's compassion. And why would this beautiful incident happen where they blessed with such a nice name and Santa coming to their house? Remember, he did punya before he fell. And so one day he's not feeling very well and he's holding his chest and it's probably a heart attack and he's screaming out to the child, "Narayan," meaning, "Come help me, I'm not feeling well." But Yamadoots were already there to take him. But because he said Narayan, the Vishnu Doots came and said, "Stop, you cannot take him." And Yamadoots were like, "Come on." He is not saying Bhagwan's name with any devotion here. This is not your territory, this is our territory, let us just take him. And Vishnu Doots are like, no, that's Bhagwan's name. But he's not saying Bhagwan's name. Bhagwan knows his name. You don't know his name is your problem. Bhagwan knows what his name is, and that's Bhagwan's name, and so now you have to go. Now he's sitting there watching this whole dialogue because time has come for him to go. Yamadoots are there, so he has seen the Yamadoots. Then when Vishnu's Doots come, he's hearing this whole conversation, and I've made the conversation humorous. It's a little bit more academic, but the idea is that having said Bhagwan's name, now Yamadoots don't have claim over him. He will go to Vaikunt, which is heaven. After living like this, Yamadoots are saying he doesn't deserve Vaikunt, that he should be going straight to Patal. And Vishnu Doots are saying Bhagwan's name is Bhagwan's name. And you cannot make exceptions to the law. The promise is, if you say Bhagwan's name, you go to Bhagwan. And then, in this whole period of them fighting, the time is gone. And so he doesn't die. And he remembers this whole conversation. And he is filled with, how could I have been so foolish? I completely forgot Bhagwan. He didn't forget me. He sent Santa Mahatma. He sent his name. He sent his doots to protect me. I didn't deserve it. As per our karma, we will get. And we'll think, how can his compassion work if we are just getting what's our karma? His compassion works. Even when we're getting the result of our karma, he finds a way to remind us. Even if we fall, he comes to pick us up. Every lifetime, he's hoping. Finally, you'll see, goal is moksha. And then we say, no, little bit more artha, little bit more kama. Okay. Then next lifetime again, he's like, moksha? Are we going to say yes? Yes, Bhagwan. This lifetime I will be wise. I will stop falling. I will want you. I will want Sat. The whole Bhagavatam is him saying, remember, I love you. Way more than you even know what love is. We invoke the Bhagavatam's grace and blessings, Shukdev Maharaj's grace and blessings, all the great saints and sages, and my humble salutations to Swami Chinmayananda, who make these words live and filled with love. Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet, asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityarma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om